I've come across you a lot on YouTube. You are an influencer yourself. I mean, would you say, obviously, I heard your interview with Dan Priestley the other day as well, and I think you talk about influencer versus key person of influence. I mean, what's the difference, and which one would you say you are?
I mean, I guess, well, I mean, Dan's got his answer to the question, which I guess that's his specialty. My view on it would be that influencer is probably seen more as a social media person talking to the macro, whereas a key person of influence maybe more niche. An expert in a field, whether that's a CEO, a thought leader, whatever it may be, whereas an influencer would just be somebody that people look up to for no particular reason than they know who they are. Someone who's walked out of Love Island and starts selling a tooth whitening kit. But I guess there's a joining of the two, most certainly. I think I'm probably much more on the side of key person of influence than influencer. But I think if you can be a key person of influence and find a way to amplify that, whether that's through greater YouTube, Instagram, podcast, whatever it may be, then ultimately, the bigger the audience, the more success you'll get. And again, the person I was talking to last night, I was saying to him that one of my goals for 2025 with my team is much greater reach and dominance from my podcast, both audio and YouTube. And when he's asking me why, I said, listen, I can't tell you what I want to do with it when I've got that reach, but what I can guarantee you is that if I have a podcast with 3 million people a month listening to it, or 10 million YouTube videos viewed every month, I guarantee you that there will be a way to monetize that audience in some way, And people may not notice it, but we've seen it time and time again with the likes of Conor McGregor with his whiskey or whatever it is he had, or 50 Cent with his water product, and The Rock and all these guys, these celebrities. You've got massive audiences that can then parlay that audience into into doing something. So for me, there is just no downside to building brand and to growing an audience. And people will give the reason that, well, what about the bad things about you? Well, I mean, try not to do some bad things, I guess. But
But I think you've been quite transparent, and you've been, the opposite to fake it to make it with your no bollocks with Matt Haycox. It's a great branding, and you know what? You're quite very direct with it, which is quite refreshing compared to a lot of other podcasts that I hear.
I think, I mean, it was never so much a strategy. The name No Bollocks came long after we doing it. I mean, I can't particularly take credit for that. I was working with a US branding guy, and we were trying to find a point of difference to me. And I was never very good at describing to him who I was, and I was just saying, well, I'm kind of like any of the other business leaders or business influencers out there, but just with no bullshit.
Yeah.
And he's an American guy. He's like no bollocks. the Americans seem to say bollocks in a different way to us. He's like, no bollocks, Matt Haycox. No, I think we're gonna have to change your tone.
It's
but
great. It's very light-hearted, and it makes you laugh
that.
as someone looking onto it.